Here we are in lesson number 19, following on the same theme. The lesson title is, I am not alone in experiencing the effects of my thoughts. Before it was about my seeing, now it's about my thoughts. Paragraph 1. The idea for today is obviously the reason why your seeing does not affect you alone. You will notice that at times the ideas related to thinking precede those related to perceiving, while at other times the order is reversed. The reason is that the order does not matter. What you perceive, you are going to see it over there. What you see is coming from what you perceive. So if you think that person is terrible, well, that person is terrible, that person is ugly, look at that outfit, whatever it is that you're judging over there is coming from the thinking that is projecting what you're seeing, as well as, oh, what a beautiful person, or what a beautiful plant, what a beautiful sunrise. What you're seeing over there is coming from your perception, so you're projecting what you then think you are seeing. So all of that is interconnected. Thinking and its results are really simultaneous, for cause and effect are never separated. This is such a key statement because cause and effect happen at one time. If whatever you are thinking about, you are bringing about. This is why it's so important that we understand that we are doing the work of understanding our mind, so that one day when we awaken and we have removed all of these untruths from our mind, and our mind becomes this pure, powerful, well, it's always been powerful, but it becomes pure. It's an altar that we begin to utilize as it's intended to be used. When we align our will with God's, what you think about, you are going to have instant manifestation. Now, we're having instant manifestation right now because everything that we're thinking about is showing up, but it's that we are manifesting out of an old habitual pattern that has been around for thousands of years. So it's going to be really hard for me, I know I cannot do it right now, say, oh, I'm going to see a unicorn in front of me, but it would happen if I did not have a mind that was already filled with the tree and the house and the car and all the things that are outside my window. If I had not already spent many years imagining that that's the reality that I'm in, if I wasn't stuck with that is real, I could be manifesting something new all the time. And that's where we're headed in the fifth dimension of consciousness, because as we stop doing the repetitive thinking that we have been conditioned to believe that that's normal, we are going to have a clear mind that is going to be able to project all kinds of new things all the time, if that's what you want to experience. So let's go to paragraph number 2. Today, we are again emphasizing the fact that minds are joined. This is rarely a wholly welcomed idea at first, since it seems to carry with it an enormous sense of responsibility, and may even be regarded as an invasion of privacy. Yet it is a fact that there are no private thoughts. Despite your initial resistance to this idea, you will yet understand that it must be true if salvation is possible at all. And salvation must be possible because it is the will of God. What this is letting us know is that for thousands of years, we have maintained private thoughts, and women are taught these thoughts, men are taught these thoughts, white people are taught these to think this way, black people are taught to think that way, Christians think this, Jews think that. So we have been conditioned to believe that there are all kinds of different thoughts, and different people, based on who you are, think these different thoughts and agree with them. Well, that's all well and good when you're living from your ego. But as we are moving towards knowing what God knows about you, when I begin to know the truth about you, God knows the same thing about you that it knows about me. All of us, holy, whole, complete, innocent beings, powerful creators that can create whatever we want. Not at all judged by the Creator in any way, shape, or form. So when we begin to realize that we have all of these thoughts that divide, categorize the world, and it's what creates the meanings that cause us to feel divisive and have discrepancies between one another, have antagonistic relationships. Once we begin to see talk about and get honest about the thoughts that we have about other people. We begin to see, wow, we're so biased, we're so prejudiced, we're so racist, we're so discriminatory. Once we get all that out of our consciousness, what is left is the same. And we have got to think the same thoughts for salvation to happen, because we got to all come to the same place of loving one another. When we love one another, we are going to be operating with the truth of who we are, which means all minds will be joined, because we will all know the exact same thing about each other, because we will know each other as God created us, and God created us all the same. So at first when I read this stuff, what? People know what I'm thinking? All those horrible thoughts that I had about my ex-husband, all the bad things I wished on him when I was pissed off at him. What? That's not private? I felt a lot of shame. And then I began to realize, well, that's why I don't want to have private thoughts. I don't want to carry shame. Let me be thinking about him what God knows about him. And then I wanted everybody to know that I knew the truth about him. So when people ask me about Ken, or not so much now because I hardly talk to anybody about him, but back then, why are you guys getting divorced? What's going on with you? He's a divine holy being, so am I. We're each wanting to do things differently, so we're releasing each other. There was no need to go into the regular, typical old way of talking about somebody when you're divorcing them. Oh, they're terrible, they're no good. You beat them down, you talk badly about them, and you inflate yourself. There was no need to do that, because I wanted my thoughts that if anybody knew what I was thinking, I wanted absolutely zero guilt about them, and I wanted to be thinking what God thought of him, because that is what I came to realize is what always allowed me to feel good consistently. The ego makes me feel good when I judge temporarily, and then I drop down into guilt, and then I got to think something else to pull me back up. But when I think consistently with God, it is so even. It is absolutely in perfect alignment, and it feels so peaceful inside. So paragraph number 3. The minute or so of mind searching with today's exercises require, you know what, let me read this again because something doesn't make sense. The minute or so of mind searching which today's exercises require is to be undertaken with eyes closed. The idea for today is to be repeated first, and then the mind should be carefully searched for the thoughts it contains at the time. As you consider each one, name it in terms of the central person or theme it contains, and holding it in your mind as you do so, say, I am not alone in experiencing the effect of this thought about so-and-so. So close your eyes. I am not alone in experiencing the effects of my thoughts about Ken. So because I was talking about him, he stayed in my mind. So that's why that ended up being that way. And do this as it tells you in here, a minute or so of mind searching. Other thoughts can come into your mind. That one just stayed there, so I didn't have another one to follow it up with. So I just stayed in the space of remembering Ken and had thoughts of Ken in my consciousness. Paragraph 4. The requirement of as much indiscriminateness as possible in selecting subjects for the practice period should be quite familiar to you by now and will no longer be repeated each day, although it will occasionally be included as a reminder. That means you don't want to be selective about your thoughts. I could have chosen, let me not think about Ken, let me think of something else. I could have done that, but I don't want to be discriminating between the thoughts in my mind, because Jesus is telling me not to do that. And I'm trusting that by stating exactly what is in my mind, I am actually being honest and practicing the transparency that is necessary for me to be able to really see what my ego is up to. And by the way, your ego doesn't want you to know what it's up to. It really wants to keep things secret from you. This is why you don't want to be selective. Sentence number 2, paragraph 4. Do not forget, however, that random selection of subjects for all practice periods remains essential throughout. Lack of order in this connection will ultimately make the recognition of lack of order and miracles meaningful to you. So every thought that you think is just as equally as suitable to allow you to learn something, and every thought, every upset that you have is equally as potentially having the power to affect your inner peace. So we want to move from selecting things to letting everything become equal, not only for the lessons, but eventually they're going to help us with the miracles as well. Paragraph 5. Apart from the as needed application of today's idea, at least 3 practice periods are required, shortening the length of time involved if necessary. Do not attempt more than 4. We are being trained to think differently. No need to drive yourself insane by trying to come up with way too many exercise, or spend too much time doing the same exercises to try and be really good and be an overachiever. Don't do that. Don't stress out your ego. We're learning little by little. As I say, making ego our amigo, we're beginning to understand what it thinks. We're beginning to see how it operates, so that little by little we can see that it really has been our enemy. But we are going to befriend it so that we understand its processes. And once you see them, I promise you, you're going to know that if you allow yourself to let your ego be what informs you about what's going on in the world, you will never find sustainable inner peace. So in time, you're going to want to transcend your ego's thinking. But until then, you need to understand what the thinking is so that you know what's been blocking your inner peace. Thanks a bunch and have a wonderful day.